Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast series of success stories. Today we are going to have new success stories on Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad. For every MBA aspirant, the dream of making it to an IIM is special. And when it comes to excellence, legacy and leadership, Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad stands as one of the most aspirational destination. And today we have with us someone who has successfully converted IIM Ahmedabad. In this session, we are going to deep dive into his journey from preparation strategy and interview experience to the challenges he faced, learnings, and key insight that helped him make it. So, without further ado, please welcome Vinayaka Rao. We are really excited to have you here with us. And thank you so much for being part of this session.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, before going forward, can we have a brief introduction of Vinayak?
Yeah, sure. My name is Vinayaka and I'm from Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh. Like I have the basic profile of education from the DAV school and then took science and then got into NIT. And from there on, I went on to pursue software development engineering for 21 months. And upon that, through CAT, I'm here now. So nothing much new from my profile. It's quite basic, I would say.
But still, you are an NIT student. That itself a great thing, an NIT and an IIM. So, going forward, since you mentioned you went, this is your first time, and after UG itself, you went ahead with CAT, right?
Actually, I went ahead with CAT straight after UG, but in the first attempt, I could not score well as I went in the morning slot right after doing a night shift throughout. So I slept through the first section and then had to solve the next sections. So I realized that I need to plan my day better. And then this year it was a different way. I had to resign quite before my CAT day. So I was pretty comfortable this way.
So, you have a work ex prior to this.
Yeah, I have worked of 21 months as a software development engineer.
So, we wanted to ask you, like, since your previous CAT attempt, you were preparing parallelly with your education, and this year you're preparing parallelly with your work experience. So, how did you manage it? And what are the nuances that students came across when they are preparing parallelly with something instead of taking break?
Yeah, sure. So to be honest, as a student, it was not much tough to find time to prepare. But as a working professional, it's pretty tough to find time to prepare, especially a fixed amount of time every day in the same time slot. It's almost impossible to find for a working professional. So what I would do is eventually, instead of solving a full length mock, I would divide it into sectionals and try to solve and try to figure out 40 minutes gaps between my work schedules. And accordingly, I would try to allocate my time every day. And usually, if I am not working on weekend, which is a probably a blessing for me, very rare. But if I'm not working, then I would probably sit through it for 2 hours and write a full length mock and then analyze it. But more often than not, it was sectionals which helped me get to where I wanted.
That's really nice, though. We heard that it is pretty hectic for students who are preparing parallelly with their work experience. But anyway, moving ahead, so was MBA always the plan, or did was it something that triggered it? Because since you are coming from a BTech background and then to management, like how the shift has happened?
So I always had this idea of owning something of myself. But what triggered it is that during my work ex when I wanted to upgrade to my in my professional career, like I was looking for opportunities, and everywhere there is a standard of credibility where I had to establish through something. So what is that one thing which establishes credibility of me as a thinker beyond just a problem solver? So this is where MBA could help in. This was the initial trigger point of me trying to get into MBA. Then I was like, if I can get the best of credibility, where can I go? This was the next line of thought. And then accordingly I started my CAT preparation. And then I was pretty sure that once I have a proper college in hand, I would be able to leverage the network and learning from the college, and then I would eventually end up going to reaching my goal. That's my goal.
That's truly deserving as well. So I have one more question regarding your preparation and CAT. So since you mentioned you have done CAT, you have had earlier attempt as well, and you have already prepared for it. So this year, how did you change your strategy? Like, how did the preparation look like? Was it 1 year preparation, or did you started with the mock itself?
So for this CAT, I would say it was basically 6 months of preparation. So initially I started with VRC by Gijo. This is where I wanted to make the most out of it, as I know that in this remaining two sections, which is DILR and quant, I usually would score decently, and more often than not, I would not be able to increase my number of attempts unless the paper is too easy, and my number of attempts also would not reduce if the paper is difficult either. So I realized that what I can actually do is score in VRC, because this is the section I can push the number of attempts, and if my accuracy game is on point, then I would ideally score higher score. This is my strategy going forward, and then I made sure that my VRC is consistent. Initially, it was not that good, I would say. There were even those mocks, initial mocks, where I had negative scores, but slowly I kept pushing on. I kept consistently, and eventually, in a time of 3 to 4 months, I could see my scores improve. Like from negative scores, they came up to 30s to 40s, and slowly, right, I would say 1 month before CAT, that is where my peak. I have achieved my peak, where I could consistently score 50s and 50 plus across mocks in VRC section. This is where I realized that, yeah, now I have nailed this section. If I can make sure the other two sections are also like to my standard, I would be able to ace the exam. That was my strategy.
That's really nice. So when we are talking about mock, so how many mock in total you have given? Like, and was it sectional or was it full-fledged mock?
Okay. For me, as I said, in being a working professional, giving a full length mock is quite tough. But if I
Yeah.
have to give the total number of full length mocks I gave across 2 years, because I also wrote CAT previous year. So both the years including, I would say I gave somewhere close to 80 to 100 full length mocks. And sectionals, I would say across three sections, I would have given close to 150 to 160 marks.
That's quite a number though. So when it comes to like since you're preparing with your work experience and everything is going parallelly, so did you ever feel like giving up or you wanted to feel like, okay, let's just leave it anyway, I'm doing my job, I'll going ahead, I'll do something else as well.
Like this is a kind of give and take every day for me. So what would happen is every time the work pressure feels too much, I would say, like, am I putting enough effort in this? And I always had this constant questioning whether I'm doing enough. So I was always trying to push myself beyond my limits, and this is where I realized that if I am complacent with myself, I might not achieve what I wanted to. So eventually I kept pushing myself, though there were tough days, though there were days where I had to work extra hours on my work and could not dedicate enough time for preparation. But eventually, I would like to make up for it at the end of the day. And instead of calculating it on a everyday basis, being a working professional, I would calculate the amount of effort I put in terms of weekly basis, so that I'm at least structured as well as comfortable, and I would be able to like navigate through these tough times. So that was my idea, and I'm sure like I was pretty happy with how I prepared eventually, despite being in the tough times. But yeah, I would say every working professional has their own set of challenges to follow. So this was my idea.
True. True, very true. Actually, challenges are part of life, and believe with consistency and resilience, you can meet the challenges. So now comes the question, since you mentioned that you prepared differently for VRC this time. So was
Yeah.
VRC your weakest section, or was it like you wanted to start with VRC and then move ahead with DLR and QA?
Okay. So for me, ideally, DRC is not the weakest section, but I would say it's the other way around for me. For me, DILR and quant are the strongest section. Like unless it's a bad day for me, I would not usually tank those two. But VRC, the scores have been kind of fluctuating for me in the beginning. So I was also pretty sure that if I can push my scores in VRC, eventually I would, on an overall level, I would score better score, because VRC is that one subject where we can increase the number of attempts. It's tough to do it in quant and DILR unless the paper is easy. So that was my thinking. Ki if I can push my VRC accuracy to a higher standard and keep the number of items also high, I would eventually end up scoring a high score. That was my strategy, and yeah, it worked.
So did you apply the same strategy during your D-Day exam as well? Like, did you approach it in the similar way how you're approaching in mock and like similarly and in your exam as well?
Yeah. So for the first two sections, which is in VRC and DLR, I use the same strategy which I usually use. So I how I do is I start with VRC like everyone, but I start with RCs first. Once I finish RCs, then I go into
Right.
the VA section, and that's because usually my RC's accuracy is higher than VA on a usual level, what I observe from the mocks. So I usually start with RCs, make sure I complete all the four RCs. and then move on to VA section. So eventually, like in almost 90 to 95% of my mocks, I would attempt all the 24 questions. So attempting is not a tough thing for me. Making sure the accuracy is on point is the game for me. So that was my VA strategy, VRC strategy. Coming to DALR, it was always about set selection. I always wanted to make sure that my ego doesn't come in the mind, because I know that on my day I can solve any kind of set. But the thing is, on the day I need to pick the right set. That actually gives me the right edge over the others. I knew that, and through mocks I realized this also, that every time I went for ego and tried to solve more than what I could, I ended up tanking those. So what I realized is, pick the right sets, make sure first nail the 99 percentile level, and then if you have extra time, then go for the extra push. That was what I did actually. I made sure I picked the two perfect sets initially, which I could solve. I solved them. Then I still had some 8 to 9 minutes in hand. Then I realized that yeah, I can still push, and I went for the third set. And yes, I could eventually do the third set. But coming to the quant section, it was quite difficult for me, because my usual strategy is that I go around 14 to 15 attempts in quant on a usual basis in my mocks. But in the D day, I realized that that's not the strategy which would work here, because most of the questions in this quant section are like pretty long. So what I realized is, instead of going for a larger number of attempts, making sure I stick with fewer attempts, but the accuracy should be on point. That was my strategy, and I actually had to like deviate from my original strategy to this strategy after 15 to 20 minutes of my exam. So eventually, I did not do as well as I would have expected in quant, and I would eventually score around 7 to 8, right? But I'm pretty happy with what I scored.
And after getting IIM Ahmedabad, I don't think so you'll look back and feel like, okay, that's what I did in QA. But okay, so apart from CAT, did you went ahead with any other exam as well, like your ZAT, SNAP, and IIFT?
I thought of always having a backup along from CAT. So what I wrote was NMAT, and actually my NMAT exam was 12 days after CAT. And by the time I went for my NMAT exam, I already had my CAT scorecard in hand. Not the result, but my actual score of how much I scored. So I was pretty confident that I would get a decent percentile in CAT. I knew what I would get through the predictors and stuff. So I was pretty confident, and I kind of gave a casual attempt in NMAT.
So how's your actual result day look like when you receive the actual percentile? So how was your day? Like, how did you get to know about it? How was your family reaction towards it?
So my family were pretty happy right from the day I got my score only. So they were always happy, and this was kind of expected for them, the result day. So
Okay.
they were not like over the roof on the result day, but yeah, they were pretty happy, especially on this day which I got the scores. And then like there was close to some 15 to 20 days between that score and the result. So I was clicking every predictor possible to see how much score I would get, or how much percentile I would get.
That's really nice. So since you got the percentile, so you got the call. So how many calls did you actually get after your CAT percentile?
Yeah, so ideally I should have got all the calls, but thing is I did not apply for all the colleges. I applied only for
Okay.
IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta, Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode, Mumbai, and Shillong. And out of these, I did not get the Lucknow call, but I got the rest of the calls.
You targeted Blackie itself. So
Yeah.
now comes the question, like since everything is on place and now you have to prepare for your GDPI, your AWT and VAT. So how did you take any guidance? Did you went ahead with any institute or did preparation for it?
Yeah, so what I did was, firstly, I wanted to understand what this GDPA process is. And what I did was, like every other student, I went into Reddit, and I gone through what the comments say, what people say about this GDPA process and everything. And that is where I discovered that there is an institute called PrepB, which gives a trail pack, like a mock PI, which you can take and assess your level where you currently stand. So I thought, why not give it a try and see where I am and what I need to do. And actually, that mock opened my eyes to the actual GDPA process. I got to know what kind of questions will be asked, what they're trying to test, and what is the purpose of this GDPI. That is what I got to understand from the free mock. And that is where I realized that, okay, I'm still not, yeah, I got the percentile, but that's not sufficient to get into the college. I realized that. And then I knew that I had to work on it. Then also, I was looking for other offerings as well, but I found PrepB's system ideal for me, and then I joined PrepB to take the coaching for this GD and PI. And since Ahmedabad has AWT instead of VAT.
Yeah.
So AWT was newly introduced for my batch, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And yeah, eventually my mentors were also pretty helpful through the process, and greatly thankful.
That's nice, but like, did you actually felt AYN actually made a meaningful or a measurable difference in your confidence, in your structure, or did it actually you can actually see the impact in your on yourself? Was it there or was it not?
It was definitely there, I would say, because my initial thoughts in my communication were always random all over the place. But what AYN helped me with is structure my thoughts in a line. So initially, even my introduction was not to the point. It was just a random story. But what I got through this AYN is structure in my story. Once I had the structure in place, I had the kind of questions they would ask initially. So I had to prepare for all of them, which I found like pretty decent help from my mentors. And one more thing I would like to add, especially regarding this AIN program, is more often than not, your mentor and you might not have the same timing availability. So this is where actually it helped me the most, the one-to-one booking, slot booking, where I could pick any mentor of my choice in my free time, and then connect with the mentor and work on what I needed. So this is exactly like the USP of my AYM program, I would say, which has drastically helped. In fact, the first time I connected with an Ahmedabad alumni is actually through this one-to-one slot.
That's really nice. So now comes the actual AWT and PI of IIM Ahmedabad. How did it look like? What was the topic, if you can recall? And how is the PI actually look like?
Okay, so out of all the PIs I have given, I would say Ahmedabad had the best PI, I would say, in terms of structure, in terms of questioning, in terms of everything, I would say, right from start to end. So for me, the AWT topic, I remember it was around the work from home thing. Like there was a conflict with the team in terms of work from home, and they had to decide on what would be an ideal approach. So this was my AWT topic where I had to support one side of the argument. The other side of the argument was already supported by the manager. I had to make sure I had to support the other side of the argument in order to confront the manager, but also make sure we arrive on a common path. So this was my AWT topic. And coming to my PI, it went pretty decent, I would say. I was tested on multiple levels right from my UG, where I was asked to explain my UG concepts to a layman in a layman terms. So that was pretty new for me. But considering I have already prepared these kind of questions, these line of questions, so it came out naturally for me to explain those things in layman terms. So the next one would be the questioning on maths. The mathematics question was not even a like prepared question. It was on the spot. Both me and the panelist were looking through a window. We saw a bird, and the probability question was built right on the spot on the bird. So I was thrown away for a moment, but then considering I have already prepared for it, I could try to solve it. But unfortunately, I could not end up with the answer in that point of time. But by the end of the interview, I was able to give the answer. So, and after this maths question, then we moved on to the current affairs section where we spoke about the trade and also the tariffs and everything that was happening around that time. And then we also spoke about the Indian economy, how it could grow, what would be the changes, and if I were to make any changes, what I would do, how I think around these areas. So my interview went around these concepts. And once all these were covered, they went on to my work experience to understand what I did at work, what I wanted to do going forward outside my work. And then they also asked me about my own individual profile as well. I once used to be a former national athlete, and they asked me questions around that as well, like why do you call yourself former and why not current? What happened? Why are you not playing anymore? So these even the personal level questions about my profile and everything. So I would say it was an all round interview for me from Ahmedabad, and I was pretty happy with the way the interview went. Yeah.
It's really nice. So, one, like, how did the actual PI went ahead for? Like, what was the time frame? Like, was it 30 minutes or 40 minutes? Because it sounds pretty long, though.
Yeah, the actually PI went close to 35 minutes. Oh.
That's quite a long time. I think that's why the selection process for IIM Ahmedabad, they chose the creamy layer of the students. So now comes to the question, since I am hoping that you have quite good call. So how did you made your decision that you wanted to go for IIM Ahmedabad? I know it's a no-brainer, obviously, but did you had any traits of apart from the fact that it is the one of the holy trinity?
Yeah. So for me, I had the calls from every other college except Lucknow and the Blackie, and also Mumbai and Shillong. So also FMS as well. But out of my converts, I only had Ahmedabad and Mumbai convert. And my like domain of preference is actually product strategy. And product strategy, like from what I spoke with my seniors and everyone, most of them said that the Ahmedabad college is doing pretty better than Mumbai in this particular domain. And if I were to think in operations or along the line of operations, then I would have chosen other way. But considering the product strategy is my domain of preference, it was pretty obvious for me to pick up.
That's nice. So now comes to the part, did you had like you had done your B Tech, you had your work experience. Now you are stepping into B school. Did you had any specialization in the back of your mind that you wanted to go ahead with this one? Like generally, I heard people wanted to go for finance or operations, especially if they're coming out of B Tech.
Yeah. So for me, the main motive behind MBA is only to upgrade in my current career. So my career comes in that line where product strategy comes like a natural succession to my current standard. So I initially came with the idea of product management, but upon exploring the wider options available in MBA, then I got to know about different domains, different roles involved in the domains, and the kind of work they have to deal with. And this is where I got to understand the concept around product strategy and strategy consulting, where you get to learn a lot in a pretty short amount of time. So this is where I had to pivot my choice of product management to product strategy, where eventually I would be working on products on a larger scale, but I would be working on the strategy and not the implementation part. I would eventually work on implementation as well, but more of my work would revolve around strategy rather than getting them implemented. As an
Okay,
engineer, I
so
was always working around implementation. So coming to this, I would say product strategy was my choice.
that's really nice. So now, did you mention, since you mentioned strategy part, so are you planning to go for any certificate courses or wanted to build any foundation for your Excel and PPTs, since these are the skills that you require from the day one and you'll not learn it just like that. So are you
Yeah.
preparing to go for any certificate courses?
Yeah. So I was told by many alumni before entering itself that I have to be thorough with my Excel and PPT. And coming to me, I have always already done pretty decent work in Excel during my work experience. So I was thinking, what else can I learn apart from what I already know? That is where I tried to go through the free resources on YouTube and everything, but most of them were cluttered. They were not in a single sequence in a structure. So this is where I again took the help of Preppy, where I had to select the certification program. So what helped me is that the shortcuts. I could learn like pretty much the entire shortcuts of Excel in under 2 hours. That is actually helped me a lot. And coming to PowerPoint as well, it was the same course again, which helped me with PowerPoint presentation. Initially, my PowerPoints were not in a structured way. I would have them more like a background with a font. Now it is more of a structured thought process communicating through a PowerPoint.
That's quite nice. So, are you nervous before stepping into B school, or is it like you're pretty chill, you're enjoying your days before the hustle actually starts?
To be honest, at this point, I'm relieved that I converted my call, and I'm looking forward actually more than nervous or anxious. I'm eager to.
Congratulations, Vinayaka, though, for converting successfully converting IMA. I know you are waiting it for a long day time, and I think you truly deserve to be in IMA. The kind of hard work, the hardship that you are bringing to IMA. So now, since this is towards the end, we have come towards the end. Thank you so much, Vinayaka, for sharing your journey with us and being very honest with us. I hope that your experiences and your insight will surely help and inspire those students who really need it and who are looking forward to go into IIM Ahmedabad and who are preparing for CAT for this year. So, to everyone who are going to watch this video, every big achievement begins with consistency, resilience, and belief in your own journey. If you found this session valuable, don't forget to like and share it with those people who are preparing for this year CAT exam and targeting IIM Ahmedabad specifically. We'll see you in the next session. Thank you, Vinayaka. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.